Kevin, Chris, thank you for having us here. RAD stands for Remove All Doubt. We are an artificial intelligence that informs all aspects of content creation. Brands use our technology to inform the audiences they go after, so think about that in the context of strategy. The second pillar is who is the personality that's going to deliver and amplify that message in the most impactful way. And then the third pillar is content optimization, what you should do and why you should do it. So think about that as the ingredients of a video or the ingredients of a still image. And I'll give you an example. We've all heard of a brand called Skechers. And if you remember last year during the Super Bowl commercial, there was that Skechers commercial with Mr. T, Skechers slip-ons, there's no T in Skechers. You guys remember that? So that commercial was not for Gen Zs. It was for older dudes like myself that don't want to bend over and put their shoes on. So in that context, our technology is being used to validate and underwrite the specifics of the campaign. If you think about the airtime and the information and the people needed in order to make that program happen, you're talking about millions and millions of dollars. And before I go forward and talk about our clients and growth and traction and all that fun stuff, which I really do love talking about, I need to talk about how we got here. 4 years ago, we went to the crowd and everybody that was in my life that was a quote unquote expert said we shouldn't do it. Number one, they're not going to understand AI. And number two is potentially using crowdfunding is frowned upon when it comes to institutional money or frowned upon with some sort of meaningful X, Y, or Z thing that's going to happen down the road. I didn't listen to them. We raised $1 million at that time from around 1,000 investors. And I looked at that as a success. Fast forward today, we have over 8,000 investors. We've raised over $35 million. We have investors like Adobe, Fidelity, Expert Dojo, one of the local VCs here in town. And these investors are part of what we're doing because we've leaned into the things that we're doing, but most importantly is we're executing. And interestingly, one of our clients, MetLife, came to us through the crowd. So who would think that a Fortune 1000 company comes to you through a crowdfunding campaign? Now, why did that happen? It happened, number one, because I love marketing. I am a digital marketer, and at my core, the idea that I get to crowdfund, and I'm in the business of generating eyeballs for our campaigns, right? We got to get people in the door to fundraise, number one. That's part of my job. And number two is we have an investor community of 8,000 people that we need to communicate with. So we've leaned into these things. And because we've leaned into these things, MetLife is a client. The CMO of MetLife was one of our very first investors through the crowd. Just think about that. He invested 5 times before I met him. So that's a real interesting story. And I want to talk about now clients, and I want to talk about product market fit really quickly. Then we're going to talk about what we're doing, because I think what we're doing is the most interesting thing of everything. So we have 2 different types of business that we do. Number one, brand direct. Hasbro, our biggest client. We started with them 2 years ago. We went from 1 brand to 2 brands to 3 brands. Today we have 28 brands that we're working with at Hasbro going into 2025. Okay, that's on the brand side. So think Skechers, think Hasbro, think brands you think have heard of. There's a company called Omnicom Media Group. For those that are not in the media space, that means nothing. For those that understand media, they're a global conglomerate, $19 billion company. We're their exclusive AI innovation partner. So through Omnicom, we're working with like the L'Oreals and the Nissans and the Procter & Gambles. So now we can say, hey, we've got product market fit. The question that we ask is, how do we go from point A to point Z in the fastest possible time frame? And the answer to that is something we call AIBOs. AIBOs is a trademark that stands for Artificial Intelligence Buyouts that we came up with. What we're doing is we're targeting small to medium-sized agencies between $5 to $10 million a year, between $5 to $50 million a year that are EBITDA positive, and we're going to acquire these companies. And bringing this full circle, we're using the crowd and the fuel from our fundraising, our upcoming Reg A++, everything we've been doing to fund these transactions. Now, why are we doing it? Because number one, it's a quicker way to a bigger number, faster, right? Number two is we know we have a community that supports us. And number three, most importantly, is the impact of the integration of our technology into these smaller and medium-sized agencies has a direct correlation to the profitability. Profitability meaning bolting into the P&L and balance sheet. Revenue efficiencies and operational efficiencies. And we've already seen these things with the customers that we're doing business with. So number one, it's always a privilege doing this kind of stuff. I love, love, love talking about it. I'm ultra, ultra passionate about what we're doing and what we're building today. But this happens because we decided to crowdfund, right? We've leaned into the investor relations part of this business at such an intimate level. I talk to investors that have invested $500. I haven't talked to one investor who's invested $280,000. That's how we roll. We have $35 million invested into the company. It's a combination of everyday mom and pops, like I said, and people that believe wholeheartedly in our vision. I want to stop a little bit early because I said a lot, and I'd prefer to answer questions rather than keep talking. So why don't we pause right there? Thanks again, guys, for having me.